Welcome to Data Science Now, a podcast by Closter about the latest trends in data science with your host, Fabio Vasquez. The topic of this episode is how to get a job in data science, from what you really need to study to preparing for an interview. We'll also discuss the right questions to ask if you're a recruiter and want to find a great data scientist for your company. Follow us on social media at Closter Team. This is Data Science Now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third session of Data Science Now. I'm very excited to be here with you, and this day is a very special day because I'm going to help you get that job you want in data science. I've been talking about how to get a job in this world for data science for like 2 years now, and I'm going to recall 2 articles I wrote in the subject. First of all, let me remember you that you can find all of these episodes on YouTube. You just have to type Closter and you'll see the other 2 episodes we have. And if you want to hear it while you're at work or you're driving, whatever, you can do the podcast and you can hear it there. We have it in all the platforms. You can find it in Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. And finally, we have a newsletter. So make sure to come to my profile and just click my articles and you'll see the newsletter right there. The newsletter will contain the video and will contain the audio from the podcast I'm doing right now for this episode. And it's going to launch tomorrow. So every Wednesday night, I'm going to be here. And every Thursday, I'm going to be launching the newsletter and the video and the podcast. First of all, let me thank everyone at Closter for helping me build this awesome podcast. My team, Gabriel, Eileen, and Hazel. And let's get started. So if you're here, you are wondering how to get a job in data science. If you want to know what's data science, I covered that in other episodes. So you can just find them online on YouTube or Spotify, as I mentioned before. But let me give you an idea of what I mean by a job in data science. Sometimes you get confused by people saying that if you're using Excel, you're a data scientist. Or if you know how to create a histogram, you're a data scientist. But no, it's a whole set of skills. You need to understand a lot of different things to be able to call yourself a data scientist. And I'm going to divide this episode into 3 big parts. The first one is going to be what you need to know to be a data scientist. The second one is how to prepare for a job interview in data science. And the third one, it's going to be how to really apply for those jobs. I mean, how to get calls from people, how to apply for, where to apply to these jobs, and how to make people call you in the world of data science. I want to also thank other people in the same space doing similar things like Kyle Macu. I think that's the way to pronounce your name. He has a company called Data Science Dream Job where he can help you get your job as a data scientist. So make sure to follow what he has to do there. Also, my friends Bo Walker and Eric Weber, they have a company called Method Data Science that can help you also create your portfolio as a data scientist. I'm going to talk about that later. And all my other friends creating great courses for data science like Kristen Cater and Matt Dancho. So I said that I was going to talk about 2 articles I wrote before. And these articles, I published them. One was in March 2018. And the other one was in January 2018. So 2 years ago. The first article I published, you can find it online as how to get a job as a data scientist. Again, if you don't find it with my name there, just type my name also there because there's like 1,000 articles on the same subject. So make sure to type my name. It's on Medium and on KD Nuggets. Thanks Nuggets to Matthew, Maggio, and Gregory for publishing my articles there, and Ludovic for publishing my articles on Towards Data Science. So this article came up from 3 posts I did on LinkedIn 2 years ago as well. where I talked about how to get a job in the world of data science. By the way, if you want to know my personal experience, I have some articles on how I got my job and how I got my first job in data science. And you can find that some pieces for that in this article, and some other one called My Journey to Deep Learning, where I explain how I got into machine learning and deep learning. So let me paint you a picture before going into details of the three parts I mentioned. Before getting my first job, like my first real job as a data scientist, I applied to over 125 jobs. I applied to 135 jobs. So that's a lot of work. And I only got like 20 replies. I mean, from the 125 people and companies I reached, I only got 25 replies. This was like 3 years ago. And some of the replies were just like, thank you, but nope, we're not interested in your profile. Or thank you, great, but I don't want you for this company, or something like that. And of all of that, I got 15 interviews. So I got 15 interviews, and I learned a lot from each one. I got better. I think my first one was super awkward for me. I mean, it was like my first time doing an interview for a job, and like I was very nervous. And I think I got better and better through the interviews, and I had to deal with a lot of rejection. Something very important, you need to be able to pass that barrier of rejection. You cannot take it personal. It's not that you're not worth it or you're not enough for a company. Sometimes you're not a good fit for them. So you have to deal with rejection. And I was not prepared for that. It kind of hit me hard back then. But in the end, I loved the process. So now you understand how much I did to get my first job. Let me explain you what do I think you have to study to really become a data scientist. By the way, if you have any questions on what I'm talking right now, I'm checking the LinkedIn Live, so you can write them there in the LinkedIn video, and I'll be seeing your comments live, and I'll be replying to your comments. So when I started in the world of machine learning and data science back in 2013, a little before graduating from my degrees of physics and engineering, I started to really care about machine learning and what was machine learning. I started to learn how to program in Python and R and all these languages that were important for dealing with data, also Scala. But I didn't have a clear picture of what I needed to learn. Because, I was doing it because it was fun, but I didn't have like a plan. Or, I didn't say back then, I want to be a data scientist. I just was interested in the world of machine learning. So, after failing when I was starting, I got into the right path by following the right people. And so this is what I'm going to tell you that you need to understand really well if you want to be a data scientist. Some of them will not. Some of the people out there will tell you that you don't need maybe math, or you don't need to be an expert in math or calculus or algebra to become a data scientist, and I think that's wrong. Why? Because you really need to. If you really want to master the field of data science, first of all, that will take years, okay? Never trust anyone that will sell you a course that will tell you that you're going to be a master in data science in 1 month. That's impossible. You cannot master anything in 1 month. So if you really want to understand, really understand all of the insights of math, like algebra and calculus and statistics, my advice is to get a career in that. Do you can do an engineering career, like computer engineering, computer science. You can also have a degree in physics or chemistry or biology, you will be seeing all of these great things about math in those careers. So if for some reason you're older or you don't want to get into a career like that, there are great ways for you to understand this with the help of great people. So I don't think it's going to be that simple as me telling you, download these books and get these articles and read math and understand it. I really think you need to take courses. There are great courses on math in Coursera, EDX. You have free courses from Stanford, from MIT, from Harvard, from Yale. They're all live in YouTube. On YouTube. You can just go to YouTube, search for math for computer science in Stanford, and you'll get a whole semester worth of videos just there for free. Make sure to do the assignments, make sure to understand the exercises to see what the professor is talking about. So I think this is the actual core, because learning math is just not a tool for you. It can help you understand the world better. So I think if you really want to become a scientist, you need to understand math, because that will expand your mind. It will help you understand better the things you need to understand to be able to transform into a data scientist. So in the meantime, while you're learning, again, calculus, and in calculus, I don't mean you have to be an expert in calculus. You need to understand derivatives, how to do integrals. You need to understand limits. You need to understand equations, functions like that. You need to understand algebra. You need to understand vectors, matrices, array, how to deal with matrices, the operations you can apply to them. And you also need to know statistics and pay attention to statistics. It's a very important topic for data science. As I mentioned in the other episodes, we took a lot from statistics to create the field of data science. So you really want to be aware of like what's a distribution, what's probability, the different types of probabilities you have, how to do inference, Bayesian statistics, probabilities for complex orders, and all of these things you can find in any good course in statistics. So in the meantime, you're learning all of this about math. You can start worrying about programming. Programming is a tool we use a lot in data science, so it's going to be important for you to understand the logic of how to code, how to create programs to solve problems with it. I really recommend right now, this year 2020, to learn Python. I think it's an amazing language with a lot of opportunities, both in for getting jobs, and also if you want to apply data science to your own projects. You can also learn R. I think when people ask me, do I have to learn R or Python? I always say both. Both of them have great stuff that you can borrow and you can use them in one project. So I think if you have the chance and time, learn R and Python. If you're comfortable with those languages, I really think you need to learn a little bit of C and C++ and just a tiny bit of Java. I think that will help you with all of the programming world surrounding the data science world. The final two languages, one language you need to understand is JavaScript, because a lot of things you have to do scraping from the web or stuff like that, and understanding JavaScript. And with JavaScript, I also mean you need to learn HTML, and you also need to understand CSS, because this will help you form and understand how to deal with web pages, download information from them, and stuff like that. So you can learn programming while you're doing the math thing. And that's what you do in a career in this world of engineering, of science. Sometimes you get, you're dealing with calculus and you're also learning how to code in C or Python. And I think that will also benefit you, because the thing is, if you're learning statistics, I think one of the great ways to really understand statistics is to do exercises, some by hand and some by programming. R and Python have amazing libraries for statistics and probability. So if you really want to understand and to practice more programming while you're learning other things, I think statistics is a great combination where you can start understanding the theory and the practice of it. The other part, I think, is not very common for people to say when they think about data science, is you need to be able to understand the basics of businesses. I'm not telling you, again, you need to be an expert in every business. You need to understand how to do a project, how to deal with a project. And you need to understand what's a KPI. And you need to understand what takes into place when you're solving a problem in the world of the industry. This is a harder thing to understand. You don't have that many courses. So I'm seeing here a great question that will help me explain this better. Mohammed Jawar is asking about the advice for getting internships. Before the advice on how to get internships, I really recommend you get internships. Those are places where you can start learning a lot about a business, a company, without the full responsibility of ruining something that can really affect the company. Because you're going to be put in like simple projects, stuff like that. And then you will be able to understand how to deal with people, how to deal with the departments in a company, how to run a project. You may not run the entire project, you may be a small part of it, but I think that can help you understand how to deal with all these things. There are great books out there. One's called Data Science for Business. I don't remember the authors, but it's a white book. And I think that will also help you understand that. And there's another book by Bill Marceau. It's called the Big Data MBA. It's also a very great book that will explain you how to deal with projects in the world of data science. So 3 big topics I covered there: programming, the math, and the business section. They are the core of data science, but there are more things you need to understand. You need to maybe understand the agile part of the business. Sometimes you really need to understand the specifics of some libraries in Python. And one of these things is of the most important things you have to learn after you feel comfortable with programming and math. It's the machine learning part. You really need to start thinking about reading articles on machine learning, books on machine learning. And by the way, there are great articles and books and videos and courses on machine learning for Python, machine learning with R, machine learning for data science. And you'll get a lot of great information from those courses while they will start explaining you how to deal with different projects in machine learning. You will need to understand the workflow of a project in machine learning. You need to understand the whole system, from getting data, cleaning the information, getting all the context you need to solve the problem, building the models, and then deploying the actual models. So when you feel comfortable with math and programming, start thinking about machine learning. This is an optional, but if you want to be in the state of the art, for some companies, not all of them, you can get started with deep learning, and that means you start learning about neural networks, backpropagation, and all of these different algorithms that can help you build and train a neural network. This is optional, and don't think that everyone in the industry is doing deep learning. That's not true. A lot of people are still working with machine learning, something that is simpler for you to understand maybe. And don't feel bad if you're starting in any of these topics and you feel lost. It's normal. I mean, you're getting a lot of information and you need to know a lot of different things. So don't worry if you feel overwhelmed. It's part of the process. But make sure to follow a good path. There are great paths to learn. I don't have time to share that right now. If you want to see, for me to share a path of learning for data science with you, let me know in the comments. And maybe for the next session, I'll talk about that. And in the world of this learning for data science, I'm going to be creating courses, as you know, in the world of Python, machine learning, and data science that will come hopefully very soon, where I'm going to be explaining all these things. So I finished the first part about what you need to understand, and let me go now to the second part about how to prepare for that interview. I think I'm gonna switch this part to the end because right now I want to let you know how to get that interview. That was gonna be the third part, but I'm gonna put it in the second part. Let me tell you a bit of my experience when I was applying for jobs. Some people, when they're recruiting for data science, they don't have the full picture of what's data science or what's machine learning or what's programming. So sometimes you're gonna get an interview call from someone that's not an expert in the field. And when I was talking about I was gonna do this session, if you're a recruiter, please listen very carefully. This is going for people applying for jobs and people that are recruiting for jobs. So some people will not know the entire picture of data science. Please don't make them feel bad about that. That's common and that's normal because this is a new field. I mean, when you're getting a call from someone, some of the times it's gonna be an expert in data science. Sometimes it's gonna be someone starting data science. And sometimes it's going to be a headhunter that was assigned to get someone in the world of data science, and they're not entirely clear about what's data science and what to do. So make sure to really listen to their questions. And if you don't understand something they're telling you, please ask them to kindly say it again, or I didn't get this part, or maybe if you find a way of telling this in a very soft way, you can say, hey, I don't think this is the right question, or this question was not is not related to data science, but don't say it in a bad way. So how to get these interviews? There are a lot of platforms. I mean, I think LinkedIn is the one I prefer. You see me here all the time, and I've been getting all my jobs in my entire life from LinkedIn. Here on LinkedIn, you have a lot, thousands of different like jobs for data science that you can apply. But before getting into the specifics of applying, I'm gonna talk to you about your resume. Your resume is crucial if you really want to stand out. There are better ways of creating your resume. There are bad ways of doing it. If you want to know more about this and you want to get a simple course on this, Kristen Ketter, she has a course on how to build your resume in data science. And there are more courses out there on how to create your resume for data science. But it's important that you understand that it is for data science. You're applying for a data science job. So you need to have some specific things there that people are looking for. They're looking for, of course, they like everyone, they want to know what did you study. They want to know your previous work experience. They want to know your abilities, like if you can code in Python or R or whatever. But something I really recommend is that you have a portfolio, and you need to put that portfolio in your resume. The portfolio is all of the projects you've been working in companies and outside of companies. If you really want to get a job in the senior department of data science, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have worked in several projects for data science, that you have worked end to end in machine learning projects, and that you can and you need to be able to explain in simple words what you did and how that helped the company or the system you're trying to get into. If you don't have a portfolio, again, this is not the session for that. I will have another session in the future on how to create a portfolio in data science, but you need to have projects. You need to build projects. You need to be able to put them in your resume. I think that's a game changer for people. If they see, I mean, depending in you, depending on the way or the company you're applying, it's going to be more or less important. But I think having a portfolio or projects, it's super. It's a super important deal if you want to get past. And when I say pass, this is something you may not know, but there are systems that will scan the PDF of your resume before even getting into a human. So you want to make sure you pass that filter. So if you want to pass that filter, you want to add your keywords. You want to have your keywords on point. When you're searching for a job in a company, really read the description of what they want and make sure you have these keywords in your resume. Python, machine learning, Spark, AWS, Azure. Don't lie, of course. If you don't have that skill, don't put it there. But if you know that you know Python, make sure that you put Python in the description. If they put in that they want a Python guy in the job description. You need to pass that filter to be able then to get into the hands of humans. So one way of applying for jobs is LinkedIn. Make sure you read the job description before applying. Not every job that says we're looking for a data scientist is an actual data science job. So there's a lot of people that are still confused in what a data scientist does, and make sure you understand what your responsibilities will be. So when you're in that job, you don't feel frustrated. I know a lot of different people that are working in data science, or they thought they were going to work in data science, but when they got to the company, they're not doing data science. They're maybe data analysts. So make sure you really are focusing on the job description and the responsibilities to see if this is something you really want to do. Don't apply for a job just for applying for jobs. I told you, I applied for 125 jobs. There are not 125, there are thousands. I chose those because they were interesting for me. And I really thought at this point, 2 years ago, that I really wanted to get a job in these companies I applied for. And you have all these filters in LinkedIn, like location, size of the company. You get a lot of different filters on the actual name of the job. So make sure to use them before applying for a job. In LinkedIn, you have something very simple that is called an easy apply. And the easy apply will ask you for three things. First, a PDF resume. I think that's optional. You can add your phone number, and the person getting in the headhunter or recruiter will get your profile. So you want to make sure your resume matches your profile, and your profile is a 5-star profile. Again, in future episodes, I will be explaining how to get a 5-star LinkedIn profile. And a 5-star LinkedIn profile means you are filling everything you need to fill. You have job experiences. You have your education. You want to make sure you have, if you are doing volunteer job, you have your certifications. You have a picture. A picture is super important. Never apply for a job if with LinkedIn Easy Apply. If you don't have a picture, they will not hire you, believe me. Have your name not all in caps. I mean, I've seen a lot of people with their name in all caps, and it's super weird. Why would you do that? Don't do that. Just put your name normal. And finally, create a good abstract of what you do. In LinkedIn, you have this section where you can add like the description of like what you are, or like who you are, sorry, or what have you been doing in the past. So make sure to put that there, because it's going to be important when you're looking for a job. And put the keywords there too. The recruiters have tools to find keywords in your profile on LinkedIn. So make sure to put the keywords you want them to find in your description. Again, this is a topic for a different session I'm going to have in the future, but make sure you at least fill all of these details. There are more places where you can do these applications. Sometimes the LinkedIn job will lead you to the web page of the company, and sometimes they have their own system, and you need to fill their own application, their own form. So make sure to do that with care, like very carefully. You're reading what you do. You don't want to have like errors when you're writing there. You don't want to have like a misspelled word. You want to have like a perfect spelling. If you're applying, some people really care about that. So make sure to read everything you're writing to make sure you're not making mistakes you don't want them to see. There's another page called Indeed. Is also very good for applying for jobs. So I think it's similar to LinkedIn. I think you have almost the same tools, and some people prefer that. So make sure to look for jobs on Indeed and LinkedIn and compare them and to see what's the best for you. There are two more places I can recommend to get jobs in data science. One of them is Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow also has like job posts. They're also companies are talking to Stack Overflow and they're putting their jobs there. Sometimes they're the same as in LinkedIn or whatever, but you'll find them too. And the other, I think the last part is GitHub Jobs. The GitHub Jobs, it's also a place where you can find like jobs for data science as a programmer too. And normally you're gonna get like a link to the web page of the company. Something I haven't talked about, when you're talking about the portfolio, make sure you have something. So, I mean, for some companies, it's very important you have something on GitHub or Bitbucket or GitLab. These are platforms for Git where you can put your projects there. And I got calls in the past from people that didn't know my LinkedIn. They didn't have my resume. They just saw my GitHub profile and say, "Hey, I saw your profile on GitHub. It was you have some very interesting projects there. Do you want to this job? Do you want to apply for this job?" So sometimes it's going to be important for you to have your GitHub with the projects you're building. And if you can do it, of course, never put something you cannot put in the public on GitHub. But if you can, make sure to put something there, and that will also get you calls in the world of data science. So again, these are the places where you can get all of this like different job applications. You'll find them, and you can apply from there. And I think the third part of this conversation and the last one, it's going to be how to prepare for that interview. Every company is different. Every company has their own standards. But most of them, when they're talking to you, and I mean, if you pass the first filters, that sometimes it's gonna be a call from the recruiter, then it's gonna be like a quick call with the team, and when you get to the technical interview, how to prepare for that. That's what I want to talk about right now. So the technical interview can be very different. You can have it like you can go to the company and like do a simple exam there. It can be online, and you can have systems for that. One of the most famous ones is called HackerRank. HackerRank. You can create there a test for people, and you can like tell them to please solve a problem there, and then you get their solution. So HackerRank is very common in the world of data science, mostly for the technical part when they give you some data sets and they want you to apply something for the data world. Another example is that they may ask you, they may send you some data, and this is called the data assessment, and they're gonna tell you, please do this project. Like, it's a very simple project you can build in like 2-3 days. Solve these questions, and we want for you to send us the final project, like in a document or Jupyter notebook or R file. And we want for you, I mean, in this part is optional, but sometimes happens. Some of them will want you to do a presentation about your job. And this presentation is going to be like an executive presentation, meaning that they want you to take all the work you did and be able to explain it in some slides. And you need to ask there, is the presentation for data scientists, for the executives? What's the scope of the presentation? And this is going to be important because the public is the most important things you need to know before doing a presentation. You need to know who's going to be there in the audience, and then you can prepare for that, and then you can prepare a simple set of slides if this is for the executives, or you can prepare a more complicated or like fill the presentation with more examples and equations or code maybe, if you know this is going to be for the team in data science. So sometimes this is the process. Again, I'm going to repeat it for you. You're going to get, if you apply for a job and they reply to you, they will arrange a call with you. It's going to be a very short call, maybe with the recruiter, with the headhunter. If you pass like that, I mean, if they want if they care about your profile, they're going to ask you to send your resume or maybe a cover letter. If you pass the system, that is an automated system, maybe you're going to get to the hands of someone in the data science department or some department related to the data world. And they're going to give you, sometimes at the interview, the technical interview comes after a second phone call with someone in the team in data science. It can be the leader of the team. It can be someone that may be your colleague in the future. So just to know more about data science, and sometimes they do this because the recruiter will not know always all the questions that they want to know. So sometimes they get someone from the data department to ask you some questions they care about. The third part of these systems is where you get the actual data assessments or technical interviews. Some of them are not even you programming. I got interviews that were like, talk to me about cluster, like K-mean clustering, or tell me how would you solve a problem of credit fraud? What algorithm will you use? So not every time you will be there programming. Sometimes the technical interview is for you, is for them to know if you have the abilities you say you have in your resume. Some companies do something called that is the OnSite, and the OnSite is where you go to the company and spend some hours or a day there working with them. Big companies like Facebook, like Google, like Amazon and Twitter, they will ask you to go to their place. And sometimes you will need to fly to another state or even country to do this on-site. If they really care about you and you pass all the other interviews, they'll pay for your ticket. Don't worry about that. And when you get there, you're gonna get like the actual experience. They will be seeing what you do, how you perform, how you deal with people there, and this is something very common for big companies. Make sure that you ask what's the process before getting into it. I mean, if you don't have the time or you cannot leave your current work for a day or 2 days to go to an on-site, make sure to ask, hey, what's going to be the process in here? And they have to tell you what's going to be. I mean, they're going to tell you how many phone calls you're getting, if you're getting the technical interview, and if you get an on-site, they're gonna tell you every detail. And so if you see my other article, the one called the two sides of getting a job as a data scientist, I put there some recommendations from great people like Mark Malone, Kyle McHugh, from Bo Walker, from Eric Weber, from Bim Benchita, from JT Kotzman. Again, these are my recommendation from 2 years ago. I'm going to put this in the newsletter as well. So don't worry for the link. You're going to find it tomorrow in the newsletter. Make sure to follow the newsletter and subscribe if you want to get it every week. And in there, I have a lot of different recommendations when you're applying for these jobs, when you're preparing for the interview. And also there's a web page from Brandon Rover. He's the scientist from Facebook, where he has all of this great information on like links to prepare for the interview, what books to read and stuff like that. I want to end this with the recommendations, like my final recommendations I wrote in this article, and there are specifically 6. So the first one is be patient. Okay, you will apply for maybe hundreds of jobs before getting one. Okay, hopefully that's not your case. Hopefully you apply for your dream job and you get it right away. I mean, I'm happy for you if that's the case, but normally sometimes you're gonna apply for lots of jobs before getting one. Second one, prepare a lot. Not only by studying important concepts, programming, and answering business questions. You need to remember that you will be an important part of the organization. You will deal with different people and situations. So you need to be ready to answer questions about how would you behave in different work situations. Third one, have a portfolio. If you're looking for a serious paid job in data science, do projects with real data. You can find them and post them on GitHub. You can even apply for Kaggle competitions. You can put your work on Kaggle too. You can write blogs about it, and that's something I'm leaving for the end. Find something that you love or a problem you want to solve, and use the knowledge you have to solve it. Fourth, the recruiter is your friend. The people interviewing you too, they want to get you in the company, and that's a powerful advice. Some people think that the recruiter is some kind of weird person. They're asking questions. I mean, why do they want to know this? They're your friend. I mean, if you get in the company, they're getting more money. And not only that, that's their passion. I mean, their passion is to get people the work of their dream. So make sure to understand that they want to help you. And if for some reason you don't feel comfortable with something, you need to be like calm and patient and be able to tell them you don't feel comfortable with something, you didn't get this question correctly, and don't get frustrated because they're measuring you every time. So yeah, they're your friend, but they're gonna be measuring what you do, how do you reply to their questions, and all of this. Number 5, ask people what they do. I think if you really want to know what a data scientist do, you can go there and ask people, hey, if they have in the description data scientist, maybe just ask them, what do you do in your normal day? And I'm saying this right now because you really want to know if this is for you. You want to make sure that the world of data science is what you want for your life, and you want to make sure that you understand the responsibility you're going to get if you're working as a data scientist in a company. There are some articles called A Day in the Life of a Data Scientist. I'm part of 2 of them in the internet. You can write that on the internet, and Matthew Maggio posted them on Candy Nuggets. And it's just the compilation of different people telling what they do normally. Like, I wake up and I do this and this. I get these calls. I have these meetings. I see the data. I do some queries. All of this information you're going to get in these articles. Finally, for the internship part, I think if you want an internship, have your academic skills on point. Make sure if you're applying for an internship that you really have your resume with your academic skills, because you don't have that much experience at this point as like in the job world. But if you want to get an internship, make sure that you explain what you did in college, with subjects you think are important that can maybe relate to the job you're applying for. So make sure to do all of that. In the article, I'm gonna be putting in the articles. I'm gonna be putting in the newsletter. You're gonna find a lot of information that I didn't have the time to cover right now. I think my final recommendation for getting a job in data science is to be active. What does that mean? Right now, I mean, it's much easier to get a job if someone in the company contacts you. So it's gonna be much more simple if they see your profile, if they see your blogs, if they see your projects and say, hey, this guy is doing awesome in data science. He has this project that is very related to the thing we're gonna do next year for the company. So I may grant him a message. So I think the ideal case is when companies are getting to you for applying for jobs. It's going to be much more simple to get the job if that's the case. So if you want to be noted, don't hesitate and don't be afraid of talking, on writing on LinkedIn, writing blogs, creating videos, whatever, creating tutorials. I think if you really want people to notice what you do, this is one of the easiest way of getting noticed and getting calls for jobs. Before finishing, I'm gonna reply to some of the questions you have. First one is storytelling important? For data science, of course. If you really want to transform a notebook or an R file into a whole project that you can explain to the executives and for them to get that and apply it, you really need to tell a story about what's the problem you're solving, how you're solving it, and what are your results. In your resume, you cannot put storytelling, in a resume, but when they ask you, how did you work or how did you perform this or that in this project, or what did you do to solve the problem you had there, or when they ask a technical question on how, you put there in your resume that you solve a problem for marketing with data science. So what did you do there? Make sure to explain that with a story. Oh yeah, the company had this problem, and I went there to the department. I asked the right questions. I got the information and the data, and then start from there. Like really put the context into your words. Okay, and some job descriptions. This is a question by Danushka. Some of the job description includes many tools and advanced technologies. Do you encourage to apply even with the basic experience with them? You can ask that. If they only are putting the name of a tool, like if they're putting Spark there, but they're not putting like your level of knowledge, and you know some Spark, you can ask, hey, how much Spark do I have to know if I want to get this job? Don't be afraid to ask any questions. I think the recruiters are happy to help you, and they will answer. Of course, if you read, you need to be an expert in Python, and you only know how to write "Hello World." Don't apply for the job because you're not gonna get it. But if for some reason they're not putting the level of expertise you have in a tool, and you know it, but you're not an expert, you can ask, how much do I have to know to be able to apply for the job? So I think that's all for this episode. This was a little longer, but I had a lot to say regarding how to get a job. Remember that you will get this job. Okay, so don't worry. I mean, I know it can get hard sometimes. You can get frustrated, and you apply and don't get replies, and you apply and don't get replies. But keep doing that. I mean, push every day, and because you're gonna get it. I mean, you are worth every. I mean, all just your studies, all your projects, they're worth for people, and you're just waiting for that important person in a company to find you and to say, we need this guy or we need this girl. So make sure to keep doing it, to keep applying for jobs, and you will get it. With that, I end this episode. Remember that you will have all of this tomorrow in the newsletter. This is going to be published as a video on YouTube and as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Make sure to follow Closter at Closter Team at Instagram and Twitter. And in here at LinkedIn, you can only put Closter and you'll find it there. Thank you again to my great crew, Gabriel, Hazel, and Eileen, the Closter team. See you next week. Bye-bye.